Many people come to me and say, I don't know why, but every night I wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning. The room is silent, the world is asleep, and yet your mind is wide awake. At that moment, you are not tired enough to sleep and not awake enough to start the day. It feels strange, almost mysterious. But nothing in life happens without a reason, especially when it keeps repeating. In those early hours, distractions disappear. Phones are quiet, responsibilities are paused, and expectations from the world are on hold. What remains is you and your thoughts. Often this waking is not because the body is restless, but because the mind and soul are trying to speak. During the day, we keep ourselves busy to avoid listening. At night, there is nowhere to run. Sometimes you wake up because unresolved thoughts are asking for attention. Attention. Words you never spoke, emotions you never process, or decisions you keep postponing quietly surface. The mind uses silence as an opportunity to remind you of what you have been ignoring. It is not trying to trouble you. It is asking to be understood. At other times, waking up in these hours is linked to inner exhaustion. You may be physically resting, but mentally you are still carrying the weight of expectations, comparisons, and worries. The mind does not switch off just because the lights are off. It continues working until it finds peace. There is also a deeper layer. These hours are naturally calm and powerful. They invite reflection. They invite honesty. When you wake up then, it may be life's way of asking you to slow down and reconnect with yourself. Instead of feeling frustrated, see it as a pause given to you, not taken from you. If you use these moments only to worry, they will drain you. But if you use them to breathe, reflect, pray, or simply observe your thoughts without judging them, they can heal you. Peace does not always come by sleeping more. Sometimes it comes by understanding more. So the next time you wake up between 3 and 5, don't fight it immediately. Ask gently, what is my mind trying to tell me? What does my heart need right now? When you listen with patience, sleep eventually returns, not because you forced it, but because you made peace with yourself. Thought when you wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning again and again, it is easy to label it as a problem. You may think something is wrong with your sleep, your routine, or even your health. But many times this repeated waking is not an accident and not an enemy. It is a message. Life has a very gentle way of communicating, and when we refuse to listen during the day, it chooses the quietest hours of the night to speak. The repetition itself is important. If something happens once, it can be ignored. When it happens repeatedly, it is asking for attention. During the day, your mind is constantly occupied. There is noise, responsibility, pressure to perform, and the need to appear strong. You move from one task to another, from one screen to another, rarely stopping to ask yourself how you truly feel. Unanswered questions, emotional fatigue, and inner conflicts get pushed aside with the promise that you will deal with them later. But later never comes. At night, when everything slows down, those postponed thoughts finally find space to rise. Waking up at this time often means your inner world is active, even when your outer world is resting. Something within you is unsettled. It could be a decision you're avoiding, a fear you have not accepted, or a truth you are not ready to face. The mind does not want to disturb you, but it also does not want to be ignored forever. So it chooses the only moment when you are free from distractions. This message is not meant to scare you. It is meant to guide you. Many people immediately reach for their phone, check the time, feel irritated, and try to force themselves back to sleep. In doing so, they miss the opportunity to understand what is happening within them. The moment you stop seeing this waking as a disturbance and start seeing it as information, its meaning begins to change. Think of it like a notification from within. If you ignore a notification repeatedly, it keeps appearing. Once you open it and understand it, it stops interrupting you. Similarly, when you start acknowledging your thoughts, emotions, and concerns consciously during the day, the mind no longer needs to wake you up at night. This waking can also be a reminder that your life needs balance. You may be giving too much importance to the outer world and neglecting your inner one. Success, validation, and achievement mean very little if your mind never feels at rest. The body may lie down, but the soul remains awake, waiting to be heard. Instead of reacting with frustration, respond with curiosity. Sit quietly for a moment, breathe slowly, and observe what thoughts are present. Do not judge them or push them away. Simply notice, simply notice. Often just being aware is enough to calm the mind. Over time, as you start listening during the day, the night no longer needs to call you. So this waking is not a punishment, it is a signal. It is life's subtle way of saying that something inside you needs care, clarity, or closure. When you treat the message with respect, it slowly transforms from restlessness into peace. When the night becomes silent, the mind becomes honest. During the day, noise protects us. Conversations, traffic, notifications, work pressure, and endless movement keep the mind occupied. This constant stimulation acts like a curtain, hiding thoughts that feel uncomfortable or inconvenient. We believe we are fine simply because we are busy, but silence has a different nature. It removes the curtain gently, without force, and reveals what has been waiting underneath all along. Waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning often happens because silence gives space to suppressed thoughts. These are not new thoughts. They are old emotions, unexpressed feelings, and unfinished inner dialogues that were pushed aside earlier. The mind stores everything, every word you wanted to say but didn't, every emotion you felt but didn't process, every moment you told yourself to stay strong instead of being honest. During the day, you distract yourself from them. At night, there is nowhere for them to hide. Silence makes the mind slow down, and when it slows down, awareness increases. In that awareness, suppressed thoughts rise naturally. It could be a memory that suddenly feels heavy, a fear about the future, or a regret of the past. You may wonder why these thoughts appear only at night. The reason is simple. During the day, you don't give them permission. At night, permission is automatic. Many people misunderstand this experience. They think the mind is overthinking or misbehaving. In reality, the mind is doing its job. It is trying to bring balance by asking you to acknowledge what you have ignored. Suppressed thoughts do not disappear. They wait, and the quieter the environment, the louder they feel. This is why even people who seem confident and successful often struggle in these silent hours. Outer stability does not guarantee inner clarity. When the world goes quiet, titles, roles, and expectations fall away. What remains is the raw self. That raw self wants attention, understanding, and acceptance, not judgment. The problem begins when we react to these thoughts with resistance. We label them as negative, try to force sleep, or escape into screens. This creates a conflict between awareness and avoidance. The more you resist, the more the mind insists. Silence then feels uncomfortable, not because it is harmful, but because it is unfamiliar. If you learn to sit with that silence, even briefly, it starts to change its quality. Instead of feeling threatening, it becomes revealing. You realize that many of these thoughts lose their power once acknowledged. What felt heavy in the dark becomes lighter in awareness. The mind begins to settle, not because you silenced it, but because you listened. This is why cultivating moments of silence during the day is so important. When you give your mind space while you are awake, it does not need to demand it while you sleep. A few minutes of reflection, honest self-checking, or quiet breathing can reduce the burden that shows up at night. So silence is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It is a mirror. It reflects what you have been carrying inside. When you learn to look into that mirror with patience, the night no longer feels restless. It feels like a gentle reminder to stay connected with yourself. When you wake up in the early hours of the morning, it may feel like your mind has suddenly become louder. Thoughts start flowing one after another, and it seems impossible to switch them off. But this is not because the mind suddenly decided to trouble you. It is because the mind finally has the space to speak. During the day, it is constantly interrupted. Tasks, conversations, responsibilities, and expectations keep pulling attention outward. The mind learns to whisper. At night, when everything is quiet, that whisper becomes a voice. The mind carries unfinished business. It remembers conversations that ended without closure, responsibilities that feel overwhelming, and emotions that were pushed aside because there was no time to deal with them. Throughout the day, you manage your life by managing appearances. You tell yourself to stay strong, stay calm, stay productive. The mind cooperates, but it does not forget. It waits patiently for a moment when it can express what it has been holding. Night provides that moment. There are no urgent calls, no messages demanding a reply, no roles to perform. The mind senses safety in the stillness. It knows this is the only time it can be honest without interruption. That is why thoughts appear more intense and personal in these hours. They are not filled by logic or urgency. They come as they are. Many people mistake this for weakness. They think, why am I thinking like this only at night? The truth is, these thoughts exist all the time. You simply don't notice them during the day. Distraction acts like noise-canceling headphones. Once you remove them, you hear everything clearly, including what has been playing quietly in the background for a long time. The mind does not want to disturb your sleep. It wants resolution. It wants clarity. When it does not receive attention during the day, it chooses the only remaining option. This is why waking up repeatedly at the same time is common. The mind is consistent when it wants to be heard. There is also a deeper emotional layer. At night, emotional defenses are lower. You are not actively controlling your thoughts. This allows hidden fears and desires to surface. You may suddenly feel worried about the future, sensitive about relationships, or reflective about your purpose. These are not random thoughts. They are signals pointing toward areas of your life that need understanding or change. Trying to silence the mind forcefully often makes things worse. Resistance creates tension, and tension keeps the mind alert. Instead, when you acknowledge the thoughts without engaging deeply, their intensity reduces. The mind begins to relax because it feels acknowledged. Just like a child who wants attention, the mind calms down when it feels seen. This experience teaches an important lesson. Listening to your mind during the day reduces its need to speak at night. When you create space for honest self-reflection, journaling, or quiet thinking while awake, the mind does not carry everything into sleep. Peace at night begins with awareness in daylight. So when the mind speaks loudly in the early hours, it is not trying to disturb you. It is reminding you that it needs your attention, understanding, and care. Many times, the reason you wake up in the early hours is not stress from the present moment, but emotions from the past that were never fully processed. Life moves quickly, and when something painful, confusing, or emotionally heavy happens, we often do not pause to feel it completely. We distract ourselves with work, responsibilities, or positivity, believing that time alone will heal everything. But emotions do not disappear just because we avoid them. They remain stored quietly within the mind. Unresolved emotions are like unfinished conversations inside you. Words you wanted to say but didn't, reactions you suppressed to keep peace, and feelings you judged as weak or unnecessary all stay active internally. During the day, your attention is directed outward, so these emotions stay in the background. At night, when attention naturally turns inward, they step forward, asking to be acknowledged. Sleep requires a certain level of mental surrender. You can only drift into rest when the mind feels safe and settled. When emotions remain unresolved, the mind stays alert. The mind stays alert. It keeps revisiting the same memories, scenarios, or feelings, not to hurt you, but to find closure. Waking up repeatedly at the same time is often the mind's attempt to process what was never completed emotionally. These emotions may not appear clearly. Sometimes they show up as restlessness, heavy chest, sudden sadness, or unexplained anxiety. You may not even remember the original event connected to them. The mind works through association, not logic. A simple thought can awaken a deep emotional layer that has been waiting beneath the surface. Many people believe that being strong means not feeling too much. They pride themselves on moving on quickly, forgiving without processing, or staying calm without expressing pain. But strength without honesty creates imbalance. When emotions are not allowed to flow, they stagnate. That stagnation disrupts inner peace, especially during moments of stillness like early morning hours. The mind uses repetition as a signal. If an emotion is not acknowledged once, it runs. If it is ignored again, it becomes louder. Night after night, waking up at the same time is not coincidence, not coincidence. It is the mind saying, there is something here that needs attention. Once that attention is given, the mind no longer needs to repeat the message. Avoidance keeps emotions alive longer. When you gently allow yourself to feel what you have been avoiding, even briefly, its intensity reduces. Writing, reflection, or quiet awareness can help bring these emotions into consciousness. You do not need to analyze everything. Simply allowing the feeling to exist without judgment often begins the healing process. When unresolved emotions are processed during waking hours, sleep becomes deeper and more natural. The mind no longer needs to stay alert. Peace at night is not achieved by exhaustion, but by emotional completion. So early waking is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is a reminder that something inside you deserves understanding and compassion. When you give that, rest returns naturally. Many people believe that if the body is tired, sleep should come easily and stay uninterrupted. But the body and the mind do not follow the same rules. You can lie down exhausted, yet wake up in the early hours with your thoughts racing. This happens because while the body rests, the mind may still be carrying a heavy load. Mental and emotional exhaustion often go unnoticed because they do not show the same clear signs as physical tiredness. Throughout the day, you may be constantly thinking, planning, worrying, and anticipating. Even when you are not actively doing something, your mind remains engaged. You replay conversations, imagine future outcomes, and compare yourself with others. This continuous mental activity creates fatigue, but not the kind that brings deep sleep. Instead, it creates restlessness. The mind becomes overworked yet unable to switch off. Mental exhaustion is different from productive tiredness. Productive tiredness comes from effort that feels meaningful and complete. Mental exhaustion comes from effort that feels endless and unresolved. When the mind does not feel closure, it remains alert, even during sleep. That alertness often surfaces between 3 and 5 in the morning, when sleep becomes lighter and the mind has more freedom to wander. Emotional exhaustion adds another layer. When you constantly manage your emotions, hide your true feelings, or try to meet expectations, it drains inner energy. You may appear calm and capable on the outside, but inside, you are constantly adjusting yourself to situations. This inner adjustment requires effort. Over time, it creates a quiet fatigue that does not disappear with rest alone. At night, when the body relaxes, the mind suddenly realizes how tired it truly is. But instead of shutting down, it starts reviewing everything it has been carrying. This can lead to waking up with a sense of heaviness or unease. You may not be thinking about anything specific, yet you feel unsettled. That unsettled feeling is often emotional exhaustion surfacing. People often try to solve this by sleeping longer or changing their routine without addressing the mental load they carry deep. But rest is not only about time, it is about release. If the mind never releases, it cannot fully rest. This is why, even after many hours in bed, you may still feel tired. Learning to rest the mind during the day is essential. This means creating moments where you are not solving problems, not performing, and not proving anything. Simple practices like mindful breathing, quiet reflection, or even conscious pauses between tasks help reduce mental pressure. Reduce mental pressure. When the mind feels supported during the day, it does not need to unload everything at night. Waking up early due to mental and emotional exhaustion is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you have been carrying too much for too long. When you begin to honor your inner limits and allow yourself emotional honesty, sleep slowly becomes deeper and more peaceful. The early hours of the morning carry a very different quality of energy compared to the rest of the day. Between 3 and 5, the world is naturally quiet. And that quietness has an effect on the mind. During these hours, the mind is less influenced by external noise and more open to inward awareness. This is why many people find themselves waking up at this time, even without a clear reason. It is not always disturbance. Often it is an invitation. In these hours, the pace of life slows down completely. There are no demands, no expectations, and no urgency. The mind, which is usually pulled outward by responsibilities, finally turns inward. This inward movement encourages reflection. Thoughts about life, purpose, relationships, and direction naturally arise. You begin to see things more clearly because there is no pressure to act immediately. This clarity can feel uncomfortable if you are not used to sitting with yourself. During the day, reflection is often postponed because it feels impractical or time-consuming. At night, reflection happens naturally. The mind is no longer in survival mode, it is in observation mode. That shift allows deeper awareness to surface. These hours also highlight honesty. Without the distractions of daily life, self-deception becomes difficult. You cannot easily distract yourself from uncomfortable truths. If something in your life is misaligned, it often becomes visible in these moments. This is not meant to disturb you, but to guide you toward realignment. Many people wake up at this time and immediately try to push these thoughts away, fearing they will disrupt sleep. But reflection does not always require action in the moment. Sometimes simply noticing what arises is enough. Awareness itself brings calm. When the mind feels seen and understood, it relaxes. The calmness of these hours also amplifies emotions. Feelings that remain dull during the day feel sharper at night. Joy feels deeper, sadness feels heavier, and longing feels more intense. This amplification is not harmful. It reveals what truly matters to you. Emotions are signals, and in silence they become easier to interpret. These hours are powerful because they encourage connection with the inner self. Many traditions have valued early morning wakefulness as a time for insight and clarity. Without external influence, the mind naturally seeks meaning. You may find yourself questioning habits, goals, or relationships. These questions are not problems, they are opportunities for growth. If you approach this time with resistance, it feels restless. If you approach it with acceptance, it feels full. The difference lies in attitude. When you allow reflection instead of fighting it, the mind slowly settles. Once it has expressed what it needed to, sleep often returns naturally. Waking up during these hours does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means your awareness is deepening. When you respect this reflective space and also create time for reflection during the day, these early hours become less disruptive and more meaningful. Many people believe that avoiding their thoughts makes life easier. When a thought feels uncomfortable, confusing, or emotionally heavy, the natural reaction is to distract oneself, work harder, scroll longer, stay busy, stay entertained. During the day, this avoidance seems successful. You feel productive, engaged, and in control. But avoidance does not remove thoughts, it only postpones them. What is avoided in daylight returns in darkness. The mind seeks completion. When a thought or emotion arises, it wants to be acknowledged and understood. If you continuously avoid it, the mind keeps it active in the background. Throughout the day, distractions cover it like noise in a crowded room. At night, when the noise fades, the thought becomes clear and demanding. This is why many people wake up in the early hours feeling restless without knowing exactly why. Avoidance creates pressure. Each ignored thought adds to the mental load. The mind does not forget unfinished business. It stores it carefully, waiting for a moment when it can finally be addressed. Early morning hours provide that moment. There are no distractions, no roles to perform, and no expectations to meet. The mind feels safe enough to bring forward what was pushed aside. This cycle continues until awareness is introduced. When thoughts are avoided repeatedly, they become louder and more emotionally charged. What could have been resolved with a moment of reflection during the day now demands attention at night. The mind uses discomfort as a signal, not as punishment. It is saying that something needs care, not control, rule. Many people fear that if they stop and think, they will be overwhelmed. So they keep moving, but thinking does not create problems. Ignoring does. When you allow yourself brief moments of honest self-checking during the day, thoughts lose their intensity. They no longer need to ambush you in sleep. Avoidance also weakens emotional resilience. When you constantly escape discomfort, you lose the ability to sit with yourself. Silence then feels threatening rather than peaceful. The mind associates stillness with confrontation. As a result, whenever stillness appears, such as during early morning hours, anxiety arises automatically. Facing thoughts does not mean overanalyzing them. It simply means acknowledging their presence. A thought loses power when it is seen clearly. You do not have to solve everything immediately. Awareness itself creates relief. The mind relaxes when it feels heard. Creating small spaces for reflection during the day can break this cycle. A few minutes of quiet sitting, mindful breathing, or writing can help process what is inside. When the mind feels supported in daylight, it does not demand attention at night. So waking up early is often not the result of thinking too much, but of thinking too little during the day. When you stop running from your inner world, it stops chasing you in your sleep. When you wake up in the early hours and realize you are not falling back asleep, the first reaction is often resistance. You look at the clock, feel anxious about the day ahead, and start telling yourself that you must sleep right now. This internal pressure creates tension instantly. The body may be lying still, but the mind becomes alert, and that alertness makes sleep even more difficult. What began as a simple moment of wakefulness turns into stress. But fighting wakefulness sends a message to the mind that something is wrong. The mind responds by trying to fix the situation. Thoughts multiply, calculations begin, and worries appear. You start thinking about how little sleep you are getting, how tired you will feel tomorrow, and how this should not be happening. Each of these thoughts pulls you further away from rest. Sleep cannot happen under force. It only comes when the mind feels safe and relaxed. The struggle itself becomes the problem. Instead of allowing the natural rhythm of the body to settle, resistance keeps the nervous system active. The mind associates waking up with danger or failure, so it stays on guard. Even if you close your eyes, the body remains tense. This tension is not physical, it is psychological. Understanding wakefulness changes the experience completely. When you stop labeling the moment as a problem, the urgency disappears. You begin to see that being awake for a while is not harmful. This acceptance removes pressure. The mind no longer needs to defend or fix anything. It starts to soften. Understanding does not mean encouraging wakefulness or giving up on sleep. It means recognizing that sleep cannot be forced. When you allow yourself to be awake without judgment, the body naturally finds its balance. Calm returns not because you tried harder, but because you stopped fighting. There is a deep wisdom in acceptance. When you tell yourself that it is okay to be awake for a few minutes, the mind relaxes, thoughts slow down, breathing becomes deeper. In this relaxed state, sleep often returns on its own. The mind trusts that it is safe. Many people unintentionally train their minds to fear wakefulness. Each time they panic about being awake, the mind remembers that reaction. Over time, waking up becomes associated with stress. Understanding breaks this conditioning. It teaches the mind that wakefulness is not an emergency. Calmness is not created by controlling outcomes, but by allowing experiences. When you allow wakefulness, it loses its power. When you fight it, it dominates your attention. The paradox is that letting go brings you closer to sleep than trying to force it. This approach also builds emotional resilience. You learn that discomfort does not always need immediate action. Sometimes it only needs patience. This lesson extends beyond sleep. When you stop fighting moments you cannot control, peace becomes easier to access. So the difference between restlessness and calm is not the situation, but your relationship with it. Wakefulness becomes stressful when you resist it, and peaceful when you understand it. When you wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning, you often face a choice. Allow your mind to spiral into worry or use the time consciously to reflect, breathe, and observe. Many people automatically choose worry, replaying the day's mistakes, imagining future challenges, or focusing on what is lacking in their lives. This is natural because the mind is trained to seek problems. But the way you use these early hours determines whether they drain you or heal you. These hours are unique because the world around you is silent. There are no demands, no deadlines, no urgent responsibilities. When the mind is used to constant stimulation, silence feels unusual, and the default reaction is to fill it with worry. But silence does not need to be feared. In fact, it is one of the most powerful tools for restoration if approached intentionally. When you stop trying to escape the moment, it becomes a space of possibility. Observing your thoughts without judgment is a practice that transforms wakefulness into healing. Instead of getting caught in mental loops, you can simply notice what arises. Perhaps it is anxiety about a decision, regret about a conversation, or anticipation of upcoming responsibilities. Whatever the content, the act of noticing without reacting reduces its intensity. The mind does not need solutions at this moment. It only needs acknowledgement. Breathing plays a central role in calming the mind during these hours. When thoughts race, the body often tightens. Breathing consciously and slowly signals to the nervous system that there is no immediate danger. With each inhalation, energy enters the body, and with each exhalation, tension is released. Simple awareness of the breath can interrupt the pattern of worry and help restore inner balance. Reflection is another way to use these hours wisely. You do not need to solve every problem or make decisions immediately. Simply thinking through your priorities, values, or intentions allows clarity to emerge naturally. Sometimes the solution comes not from forced effort, but from gentle observation and insight that arises when the mind is quiet. These moments of reflection are often more productive than hours of thinking under pressure during the day. Gratitude is a practice that works exceptionally well in these early hours. When you consciously acknowledge the things that are positive in your life, even small ones, it shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude reduces stress and rewires the mind to notice opportunities rather than problems. The quiet of early morning amplifies this effect because there are fewer distractions pulling attention outward. Patience is key during this time. Many people wake up and immediately want to fix the situation, whether it is falling back asleep, calming racing thoughts, or preparing for the day. But patience teaches the mind to observe without urgency. It allows the mind to settle naturally rather than forcing it. Sleep often returns after a period of patient observation. And even if it does not, these early hours become restorative in a different sense. Mental and emotional clarity replaces anxiety. The habit of using early morning wakefulness consciously can gradually change your relationship with these hours. Instead of seeing them as a nuisance, you start seeing them as an opportunity for growth and introspection. Over time, your mind becomes more resilient and less reactive to sudden wakefulness because it has learned that these moments are not threats but gifts. Finally, the way you approach these hours teaches a universal lesson about life. Peace does not come from avoidance or force, it comes from awareness, acceptance, and intentional presence. The mind learns to rest not by being silenced, but by being listened to. By observing, breathing, reflecting, and practicing gratitude, you transform what initially feels like a disruption into a space of healing, insight, and quiet strength. When it comes to waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning, one of the most important lessons is that true rest is not only about the body, it is about the mind and heart finding peace. Many people assume that the more they sleep, the more rested they will feel. But sleep is only fully restorative when the inner world is at ease. The body can lie down, but if the mind is restless and the heart carries unresolved tension, true rest cannot occur. Understanding this is crucial because it shifts the focus from forcing sleep to nurturing inner peace. Inner peace is cultivated through self-awareness. When you wake up in the early hours, it is an opportunity to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. You may notice worries about the future, regrets from the past, or anxiety about things you cannot control. Instead of reacting or trying to push these thoughts away, simply witnessing them with acceptance creates a sense of calm. Awareness itself a form of rest because it stops the mind from struggling against what is present. These hours are also powerful because they allow you to reconnect with your deeper self. During the day, life is full of distractions, work responsibilities, social expectations, and constant movement. These distractions prevent you from checking in with your own values, desires, and emotional state. Waking up in silence provides the rare gift of introspection. It is a moment when the inner voice becomes clearer, guiding you toward what truly matters in life. Mindful practices such as conscious breathing or gentle meditation can amplify this sense of peace. When you focus on the breath, the mind slows down, the heart rate decreases, and the nervous system shifts from tension to relaxation. These simple practices signal to the body and mind that it is safe to rest, even if sleep does not immediately return. Over time, this approach strengthens resilience, helping you respond to wakefulness without stress or frustration. Another important aspect of inner peace is acceptance. Resisting the fact that you are awake only increases agitation. Fighting wakefulness creates a cycle of tension and alertness, making it harder to return to rest. Acceptance does not mean giving up on sleep. It means recognizing the reality of the moment without judgment. By accepting the situation, the mind stops struggling and a natural sense of calm begins to emerge. Gratitude during these early hours can also be transformative. Reflecting on even small positive aspects of life shifts focus away from worry and stress. Gratitude softens the mind and heart, creating emotional balance. When practiced regularly, it strengthens the ability to maintain inner peace during moments of restlessness or uncertainty. These hours are a reminder that life cannot always be controlled, and peace does not come from controlling everything. Peace comes from understanding, awareness, and the willingness to allow experiences without immediate reaction. Learning to be present with your own mind and emotions teaches the mind that it is safe to rest, even when it feels restless initially. Inner peace also requires letting go of expectations. Many people wake up and immediately judge themselves for not sleeping through the night. This self-criticism adds tension. Instead, letting go of these expectations allows restfulness to arise naturally. The mind no longer perceives wakefulness as failure. It becomes an opportunity for reflection, understanding, and gentle awareness. Over time, using these early hours to cultivate inner peace transforms how you relate to wakefulness. What once felt like a disturbance becomes a gift. The mind learns that being awake does not always mean being anxious. It begins to see wakefulness as a quiet space for reflection, self-care, and mental clarity. Ultimately, inner peace is what allows the mind and body to rest fully. It is not something that comes from forcing sleep or avoiding thoughts. It is created through awareness, acceptance, gratitude, and gentle observation. When you prioritize inner peace, wakefulness between 3 and 5 in the morning no longer feels disruptive. Instead, it becomes a powerful space for restoration, insight, and deep connection with yourself. When you wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning, it can feel frustrating, confusing, or even alarming at first. Many people immediately assume there is something wrong with their sleep schedule or their health. But often these wakeful hours are not a problem. They are a signal. They are a subtle invitation from life, encouraging you to pause, reflect, and reconnect with yourself. The repetition of waking at the same time is significant. If it happened once, it might be dismissed as random. When it happens consistently, it is worth paying attention to, because the body and mind rarely repeat patterns without reason. One reason this waking occurs is because the mind and body are seeking alignment. During the day, your attention is directed outward. Work responsibilities, social obligations, and the endless stream of information keep your mind busy. In this external focus, the inner self, the quiet observer within, gets neglected. Early morning wakefulness is a reminder that the inner self is still present, still active, and still seeking acknowledgement. This signal often comes with emotional undertones. Emotions that were suppressed, ignored, or unresolved during the day tend to surface at night. Feelings of anxiety, guilt, or sadness may appear stronger simply because there are no distractions to dilute them. The body may be at rest, but the mind is processing what was left unattended. The mind uses these quiet hours to highlight areas that require attention, reflection, or healing. Many people respond to this wakefulness with frustration or fear, trying to force sleep or distract themselves with devices. But fighting the moment only increases tension. The mind interprets resistance as urgency, and tension keeps it alert. The more you resist, the harder it becomes to return to rest. Understanding this is crucial because it shifts the approach from control to acceptance. Acceptance allows the mind to feel safe, and in safety, sleep or calmness naturally returns. These hours also have a unique clarity. Without external distractions, the mind is more capable of introspection. Thoughts are sharper, insights are clearer, and connections between experiences become visible. This is why many spiritual and philosophical traditions value the early morning for reflection, prayer, or meditation. The stillness of these hours provides an optimal environment for seeing oneself and one's life with honesty. Waking up at this time is not always about dwelling on problems. It can also be a moment for gentle observation and mental clarity. By simply noticing your thoughts without engaging in judgment or analysis, you allow the mind to release tension. Awareness itself acts as a balm. When the mind feels heard, it no longer needs to wake you up repeatedly. Patience plays a key role in this process. Many people wake up and immediately desire a solution, to fall asleep instantly, to quiet the mind, or to suppress emotions. But true peace comes from allowing experiences to unfold naturally. By being patient with yourself during these wakeful hours, you teach your mind that it is safe to exist without urgency. Over time, this patience transforms restlessness into calm. These hours are also an opportunity to practice gratitude and positive reflection. Even if sleep has not returned, you can use this time to acknowledge what is good in your life, to appreciate lessons learned, or to gently plan for the day ahead. By redirecting attention toward constructive and nurturing thoughts, the mind shifts from anxiety to clarity, creating a sense of inner balance. Waking between 3 and 5 in the morning ultimately teaches a universal lesson. Rest is not only physical, it is emotional, mental, and spiritual. True restoration occurs when the mind feels safe, the heart feels acknowledged, and the soul feels heard. Sleep is just one component of rest. When approached with understanding and intentionality, early morning wakefulness becomes a gift. It is an opportunity to slow down, reconnect with yourself, and cultivate the inner peace that allows both sleep and life to flow more harmoniously. These hours are not a disruption. They are a chance to realign with your inner self and embrace a deeper sense of well-being. Waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning can feel unsettling, but it often carries a deeper significance than simple sleep disruption. These hours are naturally calm and quiet, creating an environment where the mind can no longer be distracted by the chaos of daily life. Throughout the day, the mind is constantly engaged in tasks, obligations, and interactions that keep it occupied. Thoughts, emotions, and reflections that are ignored during the daylight hours accumulate quietly, waiting for a moment when they can surface. The early morning hours provide that very space, a time when the inner world can speak without interruption. When the world is silent, the mind often turns inward automatically. This turning inward can bring clarity, but it can also bring discomfort. Thoughts and emotions that were pushed aside during the day suddenly become noticeable. Memories, worries, regrets, or unspoken feelings can surface, creating a sense of restlessness. This is not a punishment. It is a reminder that the inner self has been neglected. The mind uses these hours to encourage awareness, self-reflection, and even emotional processing. One reason these wakeful hours are so significant is that they invite honesty. During the day, distractions, work pressures, and social interactions prevent you from fully confronting your own thoughts. You may avoid uncomfortable truths or postpone decisions because life seems too busy to accommodate introspection. At night, however, there is no escaping yourself. The mind brings forward what has been ignored, gently insisting that it be acknowledged. In this way, early morning wakefulness serves as an opportunity for honesty with yourself, a chance to recognize what you feel, what you desire, and what you need to address in your life. These hours are also naturally conducive to reflection and insight. Without external interruptions, the mind can organize and connect thoughts more clearly. Patterns that were invisible during the day may become apparent. Questions about relationships, goals, and personal growth may arise. The stillness allows the mind to process experiences with perspective, sometimes providing insights that would have been impossible to uncover in the noise of the day. Using these hours wisely transforms them from a source of frustration into a powerful tool for self-development. Sitting quietly, observing your thoughts, and gently acknowledging emotions allows the mind to settle. Conscious breathing or mindfulness practices can further calm the nervous system, signaling to the body that it is safe to relax. Even if sleep does not return immediately, these practices cultivate inner calm, resilience, and clarity. Emotional intensity during these hours is also natural. Feelings that were muted by the busyness of the day can feel amplified in the silence of the early morning. Joy, sadness, anxiety, or gratitude may feel sharper, but this intensity is not harmful. It is an opportunity to notice and process emotions that might otherwise remain unacknowledged. Recognizing and naming emotions reduces their power, creating space for peace and restfulness. Another important aspect is that these hours teach patience. Many people resist waking during this time, wishing it would not happen. Resistance, however, only increases tension. Accepting wakefulness without judgment allows the mind to relax. Sleep or calmness follows naturally when pressure is released. By practicing patience with wakefulness, you strengthen your ability to remain composed in other areas of life as well. Finally, early morning wakefulness is a reminder of the importance of balance between external activity and internal awareness. When you pay attention to your inner self during the day through reflection, journaling, or mindfulness, the mind is less likely to demand attention in the middle of the night. These hours, when approached with understanding and intentionality, become a sanctuary, a time for introspection, clarity, and connection with your true self. Waking up between 3 and 5 is not a disturbance, it is an invitation. It is life offering a quiet space to reflect, process, and restore inner peace. By embracing these hours rather than resisting them, you cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself and develop the calmness that allows both sleep and life to flow more harmoniously. Waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning is a phenomenon that many people experience but rarely understand. At first, it feels frustrating. You lie in bed exhausted only to find yourself fully awake with thoughts racing through your mind. You may glance at the clock and feel panic, thinking that you have lost precious hours of sleep. But repeated wakefulness during these early hours is rarely a random occurrence. It is often a signal from your body and mind, a subtle invitation to pay attention to yourself in a way that the busy daylight hours do not allow. These early hours are naturally quiet and free from distractions. There are no calls, messages, traffic noises, or deadlines pulling your attention outward. This silence creates an environment where your mind can turn inward. Thoughts, feelings, and memories that were postponed during the day suddenly rise to the surface. Unprocessed emotions, unresolved conversations, and neglected decisions demand acknowledgement. The mind is not trying to trouble you. It is trying to guide you toward awareness and understanding. One reason this wakefulness occurs is because of imbalance between your outer and inner worlds. During the day, most of your energy is directed outward to work, responsibilities, social interactions, and obligations. You perform, manage, and respond constantly, leaving little time to check in with your inner self. Early morning wakefulness serves as a gentle reminder that your inner life requires attention, reflection, and care. It is your mind and soul asking, "Are you listening to me?" Emotions play a significant role in this process. Feelings of anxiety, sadness, frustration, or longing often surface during these hours because they have been ignored or suppressed during waking hours. The mind does not simply forget emotions, it stores them until there is an opportunity to process them. When the world is quiet, these emotions can rise with clarity, signaling areas of your life that need attention or healing. This is why many people feel more sensitive or introspective when waking during these early hours. The quality of these hours is particularly conducive to reflection and insight. Without external distractions, your mind can connect thoughts and ideas that may have seemed unrelated during the busy day. Questions about life purpose, relationships, personal growth, and future goals often arise spontaneously. This is not coincidental. The mind and heart are aligned in a rare moment of clarity, offering opportunities for insight that are difficult to access during the chaos of daily life. How you respond to wakefulness determines whether it becomes a source of stress or a tool for growth. Fighting it with frustration, judgment, or panic increases tension, making sleep even more elusive. On the other hand, approaching it with curiosity, patience, and acceptance allows your mind to settle. Simply observing thoughts, acknowledging emotions, or practicing conscious breathing reduces mental agitation. These moments can be deeply restorative even if sleep does not return immediately. Early morning wakefulness also teaches the importance of inner calm and emotional resilience. When you stop resisting and begin to accept these hours, you strengthen your ability to remain composed in other areas of life. You learn that not every uncomfortable or unexpected moment requires action or control. Sometimes simply being present is enough.